Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we're checking out the Cossack 38, new Tier 6 British destroyer. Vying on the screen there's my British destroyer build, and there's the ship build. Now, Cossack 38, a little bit of a curiosity. Normally we get ships from Wargaming, I feel like they come Monday or Tuesday usually. This one dropped on a Friday. Got a ping on the Discord, ended up being from the community contributor Discord saying, okay, here's a new ship. All right, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know if anybody was expecting that. I didn't really hear much advanced talk about the ship or didn't really any word that it was coming at all. So I don't know what the heck it's doing here. But we already have a destroyer called Cossack. Now this one's Cossack 38, basically the same ship. Apparently they did some changes to it at some point in time in 1938. This is what it looks like. Now, what's the actual difference? Well, basically everything favors the original version of the Cossack. We're talking speed, maneuverability, whatever else. Torpedo performance, certainly. We'll talk about damage per minute here. Cossack numero uno, version 1, 55,890 max damage per minute with the torpedoes. Cossack 38, 38,582. So we're taking what was already certainly a gun-focused ship, more of a gunboat than a torpedo boat to be certain with the Cossack. And now we're tuning down the performance with the torpedoes. In exchange, however, we get an extra turret. Cossack, regular Cossack, you get 3 turrets, 2 guns per. And here we get 4 turrets, 2 guns per. So it sounds like a 33% damage per minute boost. Reload a little bit longer, so it winds up being just shy of about of a 20% boost. But we're talking 163,000 damage per minute on the HE for the 38 compared to 136, which is already pretty good. About 163,000 per minute, that's very good for like a tier 7 destroyer, which is the tier that I got most of my damage per minute's stats written down. Tier 6 not as reliable to compare with, so that's why I'm going with the tier 7. But again, this thing right here, the guns would be good in tier 7. Okay, that's the takeaway. AP damage per minute, 201,000 compared to 168 to the regular Cossack. And again, that's very high damage. Now the kicker is on the Cossack 38, keep an eye on the diagram. You can see there, just shy of 45-degree angle. But to get all the guns, we're going to be having to show a lot of broadside. You got to be mostly flat, not a lot of angling on here, but just watch the damage. Now the Mayhan, eventually he'll start shooting back at us. But you can see just how quickly we can whack this thing. He already took about a third of his health from the supporting battleship, and we'll just pop him really quickly before he can even think about deploying a smoke or anything else. That's all, this is a very good ship in terms of destroyer v destroyer fights. Again, just the main drawback, the kind of poor firing angles. So when you're in situations where, okay, the enemy's got better support near him, getting all those guns on target can be difficult. And in that case, it's usually just better to disengage rather than trying to duke it out. But in a 1v1 destroyer fight like that was mostly, sure, we had some support. They had a little bit too, way in the back. But in general, we're going to be coming out on top with those things. So Cossack does what I like it to do, or Cossack 38, I should say, does what I like it to do. Generally for destroyers, priority is going to be capturing and controlling bases on domination mode. Potentially pressuring the bases on capture the base mode like we are in this game. But countering destroyers, spotting, countering destroyers and capping bases are kind of the priority A and B, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, for destroyers. And this thing does it pretty well. So overall, I think the Cossack 38 is pretty good. Good concealment. You can see 5.2 on my build there with a high level bay on there. But the question is just why, what's the point of the regular Cossack at this point in time? I don't know if that one's currently for sale, but, if you already have that one, is the difference between that and this one big enough to justify purchasing this one? Well, I don't know. It plays like the same ship, basically, in terms of, firing angles and movement and all that characteristics. I'm not the world's most experienced Cossack player, but seems quite familiar to me popping into this thing. I'd say this one's better. Okay, but is it worth plopping in another, what is it, $70 or whatever, just for a better version, somewhat better version of a ship that you already got? Probably not. But if you're in the mood for new destroyer, you don't have the Cossack already, well, then it becomes more of an interesting option. All right, so I think it's a pretty good ship overall. It's just kind of a weird addition. It's, think about like München was a good German cruiser, and then all of a sudden the Weimar came out and it was just the same exact thing, except for a little bit better. Now this one I feel like they tuned down the Cossack 38 in all aspects except for the guns, so it seems more balanced than kind of that German cruiser example. But overall it's like, well, I don't know. If you already got the Cossack, you probably don't need the 38. And if you don't have either, then obviously you would go with 38 over regular Cossack. So, jumping into this game here, we got the Mayhem off the board. Now, the Arizona, we hit him low. Wondering, does he have a refueler next to him or not? I can't tell. Maybe he's just using his regular heal. But we're trying to get him with some fire, switching back and forth between AP. I was a little thrown off because the twisting track was like to the left of this guy before he came around the island, so I wasn't sure if there was a destroyer near here, or if he was just on the edge of the, the midpoint for when the thing moves on the screen. Nevertheless, we're trying to get him down there, and boom, finally he goes down. Didn't even notice the Ranger over here. Now, we'll go ahead and take him off the board. We would have wanted to kill that battleship, make sure that he's off the board first anyways, but the Ranger evidently doesn't know that you can auto-pilot the carriers from the main map screen. And so he's just barreling forward here, and we'll go ahead and beat him up, right? And you can see the damage that we can do with these guns. It's not a huge damage game. I like to show capture the base mode destroyer games as often as I can, just because they're not as flashy. The scoring is way lower than domination mode games, so I think a lot of the people that make videos don't like to show them as much, but strategy is just important for the destroyers. It's just you're doing a little bit more spotting in capture the base mode, and the scoring's a little bit different. Rather than generating the points with the caps, we can alter the background scoring by pressuring their base if need be. So it's a different feel of the game. I don't feel like it gets enough coverage, even though it's probably about 40% of the games that you play in the game. So anyway, we're thinking about launching torpedoes at the graph speed. It was just sailing a straight line. Like, I'm feeling like I could hit this guy. Why am I not launching them? Well, we got planes in the sky. We got carrier planes. We got enemy fighter planes. Well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, the planes will detect the torps far earlier than the ships would. Okay, so if I launched them and then there's a carrier plane directly over me, those torps will be spotted on the red team screen right away, and they'll be spotted until they fizzle out or they hit something, right? So it'll be like the little red triangles, and you can see them from a long ways away. Now, the Grashby, eventually we just launch because I'm like, all right, I got other things to do with my life than keep holding these torps. But you can see he pretty much reacts quite early. Okay, and that's just a good example of those planes spotting. So consider that when you're launching torpedoes as a destroyer, cruiser, whatever it is. If you have planes in the area, enemy planes, they will probably spot those torpedoes. And you can also consider that, number one, as a carrier player. Number two, if you got your own fighter plane or whatever, spotter plane, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe there's some torpedo heat coming in here. Let's get some extra eyes up in the sky and get a little bit more early warning. All right, so good tactic to be aware of on both sides of the ball. But, kind of a good illustration of it there. So my take on the Cossack 38 overall, I think it's a good destroyer. I think the regular Cossack was a pretty good destroyer as well. It's just a few strange things about it. I've never seen them release a ship on a Friday, and it's just one of those ships where, okay, we already got it, but here's a different version of it to tweak it. So that's a look at the Cossack 38 for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, new to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming for you all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.